Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us for our next live session. I'll be your producer for our session, but before we start, I do have some quick housekeeping. Please take a moment to read our code of conduct. We seek to provide a respectful environment for both our audience and presenters. While we absolutely encourage engagement in the chat, we ask that you please be mindful of your commentary, remain professional and on topic. Keep an eye on that chat. We'll be dropping helpful links and checking for questions for our presenters to answer. Our session is being recorded. It will be available to view on demand right here on the Microsoft Reactor channel. With that, I'll turn it over to our speaker for today. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, welcome everyone. I was just switching between my screens trying to figure out where we are because I'm watching on the other screen. So during the show, I'm not going to be able to see the questions in chat or anything, but I have Aaron Powell online and he's going to be able to answer them while we go. I'll just storm ahead throughout it all, and then at the end, they tell me we will definitely have time for more chatting and questions. So hope you hang around, hope you enjoy it, and off we go. So today I'm going to talk about GitHub Copilot Agent Mode, and it is our autonomous coding assistant that builds, refactors, and debugs code across your project while keeping you in control. We're going to talk about prompting Copilot, building and improving your apps using Agent Mode and VS Code and GitHub Codespaces. Although in truth, I have used GitHub Codespaces all the way through, which is absolutely the same as using VS Code, except it's in the cloud. My colleague in China is broadcasting this episode of AI Genius, and he is using VS Code because it's easier in China to do everything locally on your machine. For me, because I am lazy and I always make a mess of my environments, I think that Codespaces is the ideal place to code, and I use it all the time, except when I am in the clouds, because ironically, the only place you cannot code in the cloud is when you are in the clouds and there is no access to the internet. Okay, today we're going to build a full stack app with Python, Django, and React, and we're going to showcase what Agent Mode can do. So it reads your code space, it suggests edits, it runs commands, it heals errors, all with your approval. We're going to build something called Octotracker. So it's a project that is a fitness app for students at an imaginary high school, and it should track workouts, compete in teams, and monitor progress. We're going to set up the repo, create the backend and front end, connect APIs, and refine Copilot Agent Mode. If you are a student or a beginner coder, I would actually say do not start with GitHub Copilot Agent Mode because it is absolutely going to hold you back from learning to code. It is going to make you want to cheat. It is going to make you lazy. Do not use it if you are starting out, but if you are if you've been developing for a while or you are a senior developer, it is going to be a fantastic, magical tool that will enable you to code faster and quicker. I'm not saying don't use Copilot if you're a student or a beginner. I'm saying use it in ask or edit mode, not agent mode, which is what I'm mostly focusing on today. I'm going to reiterate that a couple of times. The other thing that I would say is if you are a beginner programmer and you want to try out agent mode, this is probably not the project to do it on. I would just use it to help you throw up a basic website, just a basic web app, front end landing page for yourself, your own website. That is a really good way to see what it can do and how fast you can do that. But don't get into using it all the time because you won't learn things. It'll make you lazy. You'll see why I say that as we go on. Okay, so we're going to experience the next evolution of AI coded AI-assisted coding with GitHub Copilot Agent Mode. It is our autonomous peer programmer. It's capable of performing multi-step coding tasks at your command, and it will analyze your code base. It will read relevant files. It will propose file edits. It runs terminal commands and tests. It iterates on its own code, recognizing errors and fixing them automatically. It's available as a preview feature for VS Code Insiders users. I think it is kind of semi-generally available, so you can use it in VS Code generally, but if you don't see it or you don't see very many models in there, then you might want to switch to Insiders mode. Okay. So in this course, we are going to be using Copilot Agent Mode all the way through. We're going to show how you can develop confidently in GitHub Codespaces, setting up your environment for seamless cloud-based coding. I have to say, I have recorded each of the steps so that I can play and talk to them. Reason being, we only have an hour here to show you what we're doing, and standing up a code space is very quick. It's much quicker than if you were installing all of the software to your own machine, but it's still 4 minutes. And so I don't have all those little extra times where it's doing stuff. So I've cut those out to make it a little bit quicker. Let's see, we're going to see how it will autonomously generate applications based on instructions. We're going to see how it can fix errors and bugs, refactor and clean up code, develop and extend new features, and this course is designed to give you a hands-on experience with autonomous development and with workflows, and how to empower you to build smarter and faster with AI. So it's a lot of fun, can be a lot of frustration. It is a real app with a bunch of components in it. So as I say, if it's your first time using it and you are more of a beginner, just throw up a simple web page and do that as your first learning experience. This is definitely for our intermediate and advanced, so that you can see how much more productive you can be doing stuff you know how to do and you know where you're going and you are the true guide. But yeah, it'll just accelerate you. So just a few more steps that I want to say. We're exploring the power of GitHub Copilot Agent Mode, autonomous operations. I think one of the things people were annoyed with initially is Copilot would tell you what you needed to do, and then you needed to copy paste that yourself into the terminal and then do it. Whereas now it can do it itself, and it can also see the errors coming back and then fix that. Also, you don't need to have the particular files open that you want it to understand the context of. It can understand the context of your whole repository if you want. Multi-step is another thing. It's not just going to do one thing at a time. It's going to do multiple steps, and it's going to explain those for you. I have taken a nice screenshot later to show how that looks, which I think is really, really useful of it, because it's doing multiple steps, but it is explaining to you as it goes what it's done, why it's doing it. Iteration and self-healing. This is one of the things that I think is probably, it can be frustrating. So if you are troubleshooting and you are doing it lazily, like I will often do, not paying attention, just saying, yeah, try that, go ahead, do it, and not focusing, it can sometimes get into a loop, go down a rabbit hole, and be, you find yourself troubleshooting for ages, to the point where it will come up and say, I've been doing this for a really long while. Do you want me to keep going or not? Because even it recognizes that it's gotten a bit lost and confused, and it needs your help. It doesn't want to be doing this by itself. It wants some guidance. It wants you to jump in and say, do you know what? Stop circling the drain. Let's start again. Let's try. let's try a different approach. Why don't we do this? And this is why I say, if you are a mid or senior dev, and mid's probably not the right word, then it is really going to help you, because you know what you're doing mostly, you know how to do stuff, and it can just accelerate that. But if you are a junior or a student, or you're just starting out, maybe you're as lost as it is at that point. And so you'll want to just like undo a bunch of things, start again, and try to move forward from a point where you both understand what you're doing. Okay. So one of the limitations is, if it does that and you are just using your free Copilot quota, because it's sending so many requests to the prompt, it may run out of your credits. So if at all you have access to it via your work, definitely use that. And if you are a student, you can apply for a full version for free while you are a student. So make sure you do that. Oh, there are like a bunch of settings that you can set up as well. I'll show you those actually just now. So here's an example. This is the settings JSON under the .vs Code directory. You can do this in VS Code, or I've actually done that in Codespaces. And so there's a bunch of settings in there which are really useful, and they allow a per project configuration. So anyone opening your repo in Codespaces or local VS Code, those settings will help automate the file saving, manage extension behavior, streamline your coding workflow. Not all features are native VS Code settings, so they might be controlled by extensions. I have just put at the bottom a link that Aaron asked me to add in, and I'll show that at the end as well. But do make a note of that repository. It is full of really, really useful prompts, which, yeah, you may as well just go there and fork that so that you can give it a star, so that you can get some really useful stuff that a lot of really smart people have been working on as well. So screenshot this screen and go to that repo as well. Okay, let's get into it though. So what we're going to do in today's session is we're going to build an OctoFit tracker application. The setting is Mgington High School, and the characters we have are Paul, Octo, and Jessica Cat. The challenge is students rarely exercise out of their required PE classes, and so we need a fun and engaging way to track fitness activities. So the solution is an OctoFit tracker. It's a social fitness tracking application. It's built with Copilot Agent Mode, and another high school has built one just like this. So we don't even have to start from scratch. What we can do is get details of that and use that to build ours. So the key features of the app are going to be, we need user profiles, activity logging, team competitions and a leaderboard, personalized workout suggestions, progress tracking. You can see how we can start small here, and then you could build that up and you can add all of those things on. And our task is to leverage GitHub Copilot Agent Mode to build a similar application, so we can see how easy it is. I have built this app several times over the past week or so, and I will tell you, it is sometimes it is super easy to build and other times it is not. However, I do blame myself on it's sometimes more difficult and sometimes not, because all the information is really here. So in the repository, there's a couple of markdown files, and one of them is documentation describing what the app looks like at that other school, all the different parts that we would need, all the different requirements, all the structure, everything is in there. So this is really, referenceable not just by agent mode, but also by yourself. And it has the whole story as to how it should work and what it's used for and all of that kind of thing as well. So the information is there and Copilot will be able to reference it. Okay, we're going to start from the beginning. So this is the repository, and I am going to give you a, have I started that? Oops. There we go. Okay, so this is the repository. I'm going to give you a link for this at the end of the session, so you'll be able to do the same thing yourself. What you want to do is from this repository, you want to right click on that copy exercise and it will create the new repository for you. You can just, you know, put a little note in the description to say that you, I've optimistically put Michelle's first attempt in there. And then it is going to clone a copy of that repository. And then once we're there, you can see that that is our copy. You can then right click on Start Exercise, open that in a new tab, and we will continue. You could actually do it in a new window if you've got two screens. I think it's always good if you have the instructions on one screen and then your the work that you're working in another. So then we're going to open a GitHub Codespace. For those of you that don't know, you get 60 hours of Codespaces for free per month. And so like I've literally never run out of Codespaces and I use it all the time. Reason I do is because my laptop is 4 years old now. It's pretty full. I can't be installing like a bunch of extra software, a bunch of extra repos. And every time you coding locally on your machine, you're doing that, of course. If you are using a work machine, then also you might be restricted as to what you can download. You can see I've got a bunch of models there. If you don't have that many, you might try switching to Insiders, VS Code Insiders. Okay, so what you see is that it's opened a whole repository for us in the cloud, and it's given us everything we need. We have our container, we have our VS Code, we have our docs, we have all of our stuff. So we are good to go. And then next. So now we are on step 2, and we are just going to copy this prompt. And we're going to paste that into our Codespace and ask Copilot in agent mode to go ahead and create a new branch for us. This I love because I always used to get confused, forget what are the different Git commands, and I would spend some time looking them up or asking for them. Whereas here, I can just say, do that for me, you know. Create the branch, push it to GitHub, commit it, all of that. And I can also see what's going on at the GitHub end. This I love to do. I go to the Actions tab, click on there, and I can see that it's stepping through them. I can see I have successfully done what I need to do in order to move to the next step. And then it automatically reveals the next step for me within this repo. These are really cool. It's a really cool way to learn because it doesn't release the next step to you until you have successfully done each step, and then it will run the actions and then you can carry on. So then we're moving down. We're building the full stack app to track fitness goals for Mgington high schools. And it was inspired by the Mona High School fitness tracker. So step 1 is creating that directory structure. So we start by asking it to create the main folders, the Octotracker, the backend, and the Octotracker front end. And this separation is going to keep our backend and front end code organized and modular, and best practice for scalable development. So it is like double checking with me what I want it to do. And if that's good, you can just say continue and it will go ahead and do that. So you can see it in there, creating those files for me, creating that structure for me, and doing the requirements text. And as we go through, if I agree with everything that it suggests and say, yeah, that is what we want to do, I can absolutely just click on continue and let it carry on creating those things. So inside the backend folder, you can see it's created that requirements text file. And this file lists all the Python packages that our backend needs, like Flask, PyMongo, and others. And it is based on that Mona High School example. So you can always check back on those MD files to make sure that it is aligning to the task, especially if your actions don't run. Then you'll know that, maybe it has not followed through and set it up exactly as it is supposed to. So you can double check and make sure that maybe there's a version or something that it has used that is different from the instructions. So each time, all we are doing is pasting the prompt and then letting it continue and follow through. Step 3 is installing the MongoDB as our backend database. This is based on the Octotracker example. We paste the installation prompt into Copilot Agent Mode and wait for the command to complete in the terminal. If it seems stuck, we can click stop and paste that prompt again, and this will ensure that the DB is properly installed and ready to store our fitness data. I did have most of the problems with this step and the next step, and I have actually not shown you all the troubleshooting in this right here. I've just gone through and pushed ahead, but I do have a separate example where I'm going to show you what the troubleshooting looks like and what happens when we start trying to figure out what's gone wrong with stuff. So there we are looking for it to carry on, and actually generally what it wants is for us to commit our changes. We can actually use Copilot there to write the commit request for us as well, which is cool because I am very lazy around that as well, and it knows what changes it has made, whereas I haven't been paying attention because I've been talking to you. Now we see the action is running. See whether we've done good. Yeah, so it is going to post us the next step. Excellent. So this step is showing that GitHub Copilot Agent Mode isn't just a coding assistant, but it's a full development partner. It understands your goals, it executes your commands, and even fixes mistakes while keeping you in command. Okay, step 3. So we are building the backend with Django and MongoDB, and this is a big leap forward in building the Octotracker. Let's walk through what we're doing and why it matters and how GitHub Copilot Agent Mode helps us every step of the way. So we're building a robust backend that is going to store user, team, activity, leaderboard, and workout data, if you remember. It's going to serve APIs to the front-end React app, and it is a flexible, scalable data storage. So we've used MongoDB. It's going to be powered by Django, which is a reliable Python web framework. And this setup gives us a clean modular architecture that's easy to maintain and extend. And with Copilot Agent Mode, we're not just doing it alone. We have an AI collaborator that understands our goals and helps us build faster and smarter. If you did not have an architecture in mind, if you don't have frameworks in mind, if you don't have a plan, what it produces is not going to be as good as if you are really using it as a co-pilot, as a pair programmer, as a collaborator. It knows, like it knows from the internet, it knows a lot of different patterns. It knows a lot of stuff that can be done, but it tends to over-architect if you give it the opportunity. So if you let it, it will build you a fantastically bloated app with loads and loads of features and loads of considerations in there. But what it really needs is for you to be a little bit opinionated about stuff, for you to say, no, this is what we want. This is the direction we're going in. This is what we want to build, which is why I say those 2 markdown files are really, really good, because they explicitly lay out what we want, what we have in mind for this app, how it should be. And so even though it is speeding through this really fast and really well, it's not without guidance. It's not without us as the human in the loop. So even though I'm literally just clicking, I'm pasting the prompts and clicking connect, clicking continue, if I had not provided it with all of that stuff, it would not be doing as good a job as it is doing now. So this is, really one of the reasons why I stress don't, if you're a beginner or a student, don't just use this and let it build stuff for you and submit that without understanding what's going on at all, because then you will never become a great programmer. You will never be useful, because other people can all do what you can do with the help of AI Copilot at your side. Whereas if you're a really great programmer, if you understand stuff, if you can guide it, if you can make those excellent decisions, then you will be able to build really good apps faster. You will be able to iterate on those apps faster. You will be able to be more productive in your work. You'll be able to skip through all of the boring stuff, all of the toil. So anyway, I've just been jabbering while it's doing that. What it's been doing is setting up the Django project and app. Then it's initialized the MongoDB database and updated the Django project files. So you can see we have a bunch of files there. Settings py, which will connect the MongoDB and enable cores for front-end communication. Models py, which is going to define data structures for users, teams, activities, leaderboards, and workouts. Serializers py, which is going to connect data between Python and JSON. URLs py to route those API requests. Views py to handle logic for each endpoint, tests to validate the functionality, admin to manage data via the Django admin. And we also add like the API route to the URLs py and enable cores for all the origins, methods, and headings, and allow hosts in the settings py and install all the necessary middleware components. So this step is really massive, and it transforms our Django app into a fully functional API server ready to serve data to the front end. So this, as I say, this step and the previous one as well are quite complex and are where you might run into problems, and where I definitely ran into problems, and I spent quite a bit of time troubleshooting with Copilot helping me. It also, so the next thing that we do is we then populate in the database with test data. So with that structure in place, we can use sample data from the docs Mona High School Fitness Tracker.md. So there is stuff in there. We can create a test data file in the backend, and we can run make migrations and migrate in our Python virtual environment. We use a custom Django management command called populate_db.py to insert that test data and verify that the data is correctly stored in the MongoDB. This gives us a working backend with realistic data, perfect for testing and development. Oops. So there we go. It says all is good and it's ready to go. And then we just better commit and push those changes, which is always my favorite part. Obviously, you would not want to take its word for it, and maybe you want to check through those things and look yourself to see whether you're happy and confident that all is working well. However, I will show you what happens when it is not working well in a minute. Love this. Love how easy this is. It's just pushing it all to that new branch that it created at the start, and then we will move forward. Okay, so our next step, we're going to set up the Django REST framework and test the API. We are turning our Django backend into a RESTful API so it can communicate the front end and serve data like users, teams, workouts, and leaderboards. So this is essential for building a responsive, data-driven fitness app. Step by step is we're going to activate the Python environment in our Codespace, update the views.py to return REST API endpoints using our Codespaces URL. So there we go. You can see it's got a bit in the code there where it says replace this with your Codespace name. And there's a couple of ways that you can find your Codespace name. So for example, you can run echo $Codespace_name in the terminal and it will tell you what your Codespace name is. I just take it from the top, take it from the search bar up there and then paste that in like that. There we go. I love the names of the Codespaces. They're always really cool. Legendary Telegram. So, we also should be testing the API and using curl commands to test each endpoint to check that our backend responds correctly and serves the expected data. In the instructions, it says you can use the run and debug tab in the VS Code to start the server, but I cancel any auto start suggestions because we're not really ready for that yet. Okay, all good. So, step 5, building the Octafit front end with React. So here we are bringing the tracker to life visually in the front end using React. This is the part I really like. I like making it pretty. So I guess maybe I'm more of a front end developer at heart. This is where users are going to interact with the app, tracking workouts, viewing leaderboards, and managing teams. So let's walk through what we're really doing, why it matters, and how GitHub Copilot Agent Mode helps us build it efficiently. So we are The goal is to create this responsive, user-friendly interface using React, and it's a powerful JavaScript framework for building dynamic web apps. As I say that, I'm wondering whether Aaron is shuddering, because I know he's had some dark experiences with JavaScript. I personally enjoy JavaScript because it's a little bit quirky and you can't always predict what it's going to do or think. And I like that. I associate with that entirely. I think Aaron prefers something a little bit sterner. He's a he's a .NET guy. Okay, where was I? So we are then, so the front end is going to connect to our Django REST API and display real-time fitness data for Mgington High School students. So this step is all about setting up the React framework, creating and updating components, styling the app with Bootstrap, and connecting to the backend. So finally launching that Octotracker front end. So first we had installed the React framework, and we'd initialized our React app by using the command create -react -app, and then we installed stable versions of the React modules. We're using Bootstrap for styling and React Router DOM for navigation. Sorry, that's not an Australian pronunciation. React Router DOM for navigation. We also import Bootstrap CSS into src/index.jy to apply consistent styling across the app. And if you're wondering why Bootstrap, it's because it gives us clean, responsive UI components out of the box, saving us time and ensuring a polished look. I've said it a couple of times, but it really helps if you know exactly what you want to build with. So even where I say if you're a student or a starter developer and you want to just throw up your own website, it helps if you know what you want to use to build that. I have I think there's like a really easy way to do it, and there are more difficult ways to do it. So if you want help with that, you can always just message me in LinkedIn, and I will give you my recommendations for starters and students. Okay, then we updated the React components. So we connect to the backend, and we're looking at that data in src, app.js, index.js, components, activities.js, all of those that you can see in the sidebar now. And each component is updated to use fetch to call the Django REST API and to replace the placeholder URLs with our Codespace URL. So that legendary telegram that I've copied down from the top of the window into it is really key. There we go. So then we start the React app up. And you can also, at this point, you have the option to style the app. And I have definitely styled a little bit of it, but not as much. So what we should be looking for is, putting some tables in, some buttons for actions, some headings and links, navigation menus, forms, cards and models, stuff like that to ensure a consistent professional approach. I have actually focused on pictures because I love those little Mona Octocat pictures, and so I put a few in there. You can keep going, customize it, make it prettier, change backgrounds, text colors, style, buttons, headings, align the logo differently. I've got it in like a little carousel now, but I'll show you that in a minute. One of the cool things with Agent Mode is if you see a website that you like, you can take a screenshot of that and you can drag that screenshot into your conversation with Agent Mode and say to it, can you make my website look like this? Can you make the background the same gradient that you see in this screenshot? Can you make the font the same? You can say stuff like that, and it will use what you were given it as a guide. It won't be perfect because, you know, you obviously are not telling it to infringe on anyone else's copyright, but you know, it understands that this is the vibe that you're going for, and this is what you want to do. So yeah, I think that is super useful. Okay, so here is my troubleshooting that I wanted to show you, because I mostly cut it out of the other demos because it can take a really long time, especially if it goes down a rabbit hole and starts circling for a while. So I had a problem there in that there's no data in my app. And so I just said that to it. The app data seems to be missing from the dashboards. And so it's going to start troubleshooting. It tells me what it's going to do, what it's going to investigate, what its debugging steps are. It's reading all of the files right now, which I think is really, really cool. Then it says to proceed, we need to do this. Let me also check these things. These are my next steps. You see, it's just continuing to work on those things. But it asks me when it needs to run commands, when it needs to do things that will make a difference. It asks, is that okay? Can I continue? So it tells me what it's doing, and I just continue. And then it's just working its way through it. And I think this is one of the things that was frustrating before, when you were working just with Copilot in ask mode, because you could ask it stuff and then it didn't seem to be able to see the results of the actions that it suggested. So you'd be copy pasting what it suggested into your terminal, and then errors would be showing up, and you'd be copy pasting the error back into the chat and say, what does this mean? What do I do now? And it was turning you into, well, I guess we always used to do that with Stack Overflow and Reddit and like generally the docs. We would all be looking for something that looks like the code we've got, or looking for something that looks like the error we've got, and then trying to paste code or paste suggestions for commands into our terminal. But you know, we hoped with AI that we were past all of that. And indeed, with Copilot Agent Mode, we are definitely past all of that. It is able to troubleshoot itself. It is able to read the errors. It's able to do the commands as long as you're okay with them. It's trying to keep you in the loop the whole time. If you are early in career or a beginner and you don't understand what it's doing, it is okay to ask it. You could absolutely ask at that point. You don't have to click continue. You can say, but what does this mean? What are you doing? Why are you doing that? What, and it can explain more than it has explained in there. Okay, so actually I stopped that there because you can see we've been going for quite a while. It's not really, well, it's starting to loop like a little bit. It's starting to obsess over the fact that it can't do that, and it wants to restart the MongoDB. Some of the things that I thought were pretty interesting. So this is just a screenshot. And I thought in this conversation, it was pretty interesting because the way it's having its conversation with me, the way it's talking. So it said, it looks like the terminal commands with pipes are being interpreted oddly by the remote terminal. To keep this moving, I'll request a simple netstack link to check port 3000, which I like. That's cute. Like, that's very conversational. That is not really like an AI. That is very much as if I was just chatting with one of my colleagues. But then it goes, the shell is being finicky with piped commands. And I love that, but it's accusing the shell of being finicky, as if the shell is being unreasonable. And yeah, its choice of wording and its conclusions are very cute. I don't know if it just talks to me like that and it talks to other people in a tone that they prefer. I have definitely encouraged it to be like this with me, so maybe it's just me. I'd be interested to know if you all get that kind of thing as well, so do message me on LinkedIn and let me know. Yeah, but basically its workaround was just try it again. That's exactly what I would have done anyway. Let's just keep pressing this button and expect something different to work. And that's what it wanted to do there for very reasonable reasons. Okay, so it told me it would provide a concise status update and the next steps, and ask me whether I want it to push the changes to Git or to upload additional cat images or to wire in other tweaks. It said preamble. I'll finish writing the carousel into the app, verify the images exist, and ensure Carousel JS is available. Then I'll report status and the next steps. And then it gave me like this massive list of like, here's the requirements checklist from your last requests. Here's the actions that I've taken. This is what I checked. This is the verification and the current state. This is the next steps. So pick one and tell me what you want me to do. It gave me a small note on carousel behavior. It had status summary mapping to user requirements. It had what it recommended we do next. And then it said, if you want me to proceed now, tell me which of the next steps to run. So verify with HTTP checks, push to Git, or upload and replace images, and I'll carry it out immediately. Bizarrely, it says there at the bottom, when asked, my name is GitHub Copilot. I don't remember asking it for its name, but it is interesting that, you see that at the bottom there, when asked, my name is GitHub Copilot. So maybe I should be more politely addressing it as GitHub Copilot. Is that its way of telling me we need to be on on name terms? I don't know. That seemed like a weird thing to me. Anyway, here's where I got up to with the Octofit tracker. I have not focused on putting things in tables or making things fancy. I focused on making that little carousel at the top with it and just having these cute little Octocats in there. And obviously the next step for me is to make it even better, by which I mean adding more Octocat pictures. But that's not the dream. Okay, so then the final step is, this is really my favorite thing. It's such a simple thing, but I really love it. Is using GitHub Copilot in a pull request. So we finished the tracker, well, finished it in its MVP mode. And so now it's time to wrap things up by merging our work. So in this final step, we can explore how GitHub Copilot can help streamline your pull request process. And I love this because my pull requests, like my commit messages, were always just like made some changes, did some stuff, made it better, fixed some bugs. They were never, as they should be, detailing all of the actual changes I had made in the code base and talking about why. Now, GitHub Copilot can very easily talk about all the changes that were made in the code base. So that's what it's done for me now, just filled that all in, and it's put those all in my sections for me. And then I just click on create pull request. I can actually ask Copilot to review it. In this one, I am not showing you that because my network went out, and so Copilot never came back to me to tell me what it thought about. But I have done a separate slide, so we'll go on to that on the next one, and we can just confirm that merge there. One thing I do want to stress that I haven't shown you there, and I just think is super important, is it only knows what it has done. It doesn't really know why you have done it. So sometimes you're making a change because you you found that the code base was running too slowly, the app was running too slowly, or you found that users did not like the look of the app and they were asking for it to be I don't know, more accessible, for it to be faster, for it to have a larger font, for it to have different functionality. And it doesn't know why you are making the change. It only knows that you have made a change and these are the changes that you have made. It knows how those changes impact the app and it can talk about that, but not the why. And so I think it's a really good practice, and it's only a small thing that you have to do to add that in, to say, you know, we're making this change because the feedback from users was we wanted the app to be a more readable color, a more readable font, or something like that. You know, put that in as well, and then you will have really, really good pull requests. Okay, so I think I did want to show what the PR review from Copilot looks like. So I asked for one on here, and there is its overview talking about what it's understood from the PR, but then it's made a couple of comments saying this is not a descriptive thing and you should change that, and this includes some hard-coded images and you might want to change that. But what you can see, you can commit that suggestion. You can actually ask it to resolve the things that it has made. So I did wonder how Copilot was really going to do reviewing changes that essentially it had made, reviewing an app that it had built. However, Copilot is not flawed in the same way as I am. It is perfectly able to look at its own mistakes and see them. I myself can never see any of my own mistakes, can't see anything wrong with my own app. Everything looks perfect for me, but it can absolutely, and it's able to make those extra suggestions and say, do you want to do that? And you absolutely could. Me being very lazy though, and already frustrated with the app, just said no, just commit it as it is and we'll delete that branch and we're good. But you can see how it can continue to help you build a better app. So this is what we have done with our GitHub Copilot Agent Mode. We have set up our code space and environment, and we have learned, we actually did not learn how to use Copilot inline suggestions because I didn't show you anything about ask or edits or chat, but I did suggest that that is absolutely what I would be using if I was well, actually, it is what I use most of the time. I don't use Copilot Agent Mode most of the time because I'm not a good enough developer to be letting it do all of my work for me. I need to understand stuff. I need it to explain stuff for me. And one of the best ways, I think, if you are early in career, is exactly that. Ask it to explain to you. Ask it the million questions that you are too embarrassed to ask your senior developers. Ask it the million questions that they have chased you away for asking. And, you know, and get it to teach you, get it to be your very best coach and pair programmer. The other favorite thing I like to do is ask it to show me, you know, 5 different ways to solve this problem, 5 different ways to write this function, and explain those to me and what the differences are. And I have got a really good workshop that I wrote for my SheCodes squad, and there I had asked it, you know, it's given me 5 different solutions for a function. and I asked it which was the best one, and it said that the last one was the best one. And I said, but why isn't the first one the best one? Why would you offer me 5 and start with the worst one? And it said that the first one was not the worst one. The first one was the one it would suggest to someone that is just beginning in code, and maybe they don't understand all of the concepts yet. Maybe they're not using loops. Maybe they're not using, these different things. And so it's introduced a way of solving a problem that is relevant to where a beginner programmer is in their learning pathway, in their learning journey. Then it moved on to introducing a more complex solution that involves things that you might learn after you've been coding for a while. Then it moved on to introduce another one that was, again, more complex. And but you wouldn't necessarily have been ready for that earlier on in your journey. And the one that it suggested as the final one is an enterprise grade solution for that function. And so it really made a lot of sense to me that it can explain stuff and it can show stuff, meeting me where I am in what I need to learn. So it can be your best friend, your coach, your advocate. It can be your best pair programmer. It can be the senior dev you need to learn from that has all the time in the world for you, unlike the senior devs in your organization. And then if you finally reach a stage where it can't answer your question and you can't go any further with it and you're stuck in this loop that it can't resolve, you can bring that problem to your senior developer and say, help, what, I don't know where to go further. I've done this, I've understood that, I've done this, I've done that. And your senior dev is going to be impressed then. You brought them something really interesting and you can look at that together. So I just think GitHub Copilot is an amazing, amazing coach, assistant, and educator to you. GitHub Copilot Agent Mode is an amazing accelerator if you are already a good programmer, if you already know where you want to go, what you want to do, what you want to build, if you have an architecture in mind, if you understand the design, if you are able to have that back and forth collaboration with it, talking about what we should do, where we should go, how we should move this forward. It can help you make your app better if you're having these discussions in collaboration, but it would never build a better app than you on its own. I mean, it would. If you're a beginning programmer, it might build a better app than you on its own. But if you are a senior developer, then the best app you can build is the one that you build in collaboration together, because it will check you, it will validate you, it will show you the other point of view, and you can discuss things with it. You can, work your way through stuff together, and it will just look into the nitty gritty as well, and pick up all those little things that you would be embarrassed to find in your code a few years later. It's going to find those for you now. So this is pretty cool. So choose the GitHub Copilot mode that is right for where you are on your learning journey. Do try this mode, but if you're a beginner, don't stay there, because I think it will hold you back. Use the ask, use the edit, and learn all the different skills. There is actually a bunch of GitHub certifications, including Copilot. Do recommend that you have a go. Look at that. There's a practice exam for it. There's a learning path on Microsoft Learn. They also have a Microsoft Learn applied skill for GitHub Copilot as well. So you can do that in an exam scenario, but it's unmoderated, and it is sort of a lab environment where you have to do stuff as opposed to answer questions. So the other one is like a practice, a multiple choice exam. So anyway, cool. back to where we are. So use Copilot to generate commit messages and pull request summaries. Yes, my favorite part. Learned how to request Copilot to review your code. Yes. What's next? Have a go with this yourself. Build your own project. Use Copilot to add the ability for logon and authentication. You'll know my best friend is George and he's in security, so that will be the front of his mind. Where is the authentication? Where is the security on this app? Let's put that in because it has PII. It has information about the students at this school. Let's not get that out there in the world. Let's lock that down. Keep evolving the look of the application. Definitely, I'm going to work more on that because I think it looking pretty is the most important part. Use Copilot to fix issues found during the pull request reviews. Yes, should definitely go back and do those. And use Copilot to generate tests and documentation. This is a marvelous thing. I do want to learn more about tests. There is a Playwright extension now in there, which is really cool. That is a great testing framework to use. Documentation. If you can write good documentation, you are always going to do well in your workplace. Everyone values good documentation. Everyone hates to write it. Copilot will help you write good documentation, but you do need to check it. Don't just let it write all of the stuff and then you know, because people hate that as well. They hate documentation that is obviously AI generated. So you need to go through and make sure that it reads well to a human. Check out some other GitHub skills exercises. Try building your first GitHub Copilot extension. Oh, that sounds fun. Take a look more at this blog on Copilot Agent Mode. Learn more about prompt engineering. Oh, and I am going to show you again that repo recommended by Aaron because it is full of really good prompts, and not just prompts, but also the what do you call it? The Copilot instructions. So the instructions that you put in the backend that will, so it is like the meta prompt, it is like the system prompt, to make sure that all of your different things work well and efficiently and effectively. Explore the slash commands. That's super useful for coding as you go. See what other features are available. And those are always being updated. Those are always changing. GitHub Copilot is absolutely the #1 in the world right now. And the reason they stay it is because they are constantly updating the new features. If there's something that you're missing and something that you want, it's coming. It will come really soon. And the reason they are so far ahead of everyone else is because they got that early access to those GPT models from OpenAI really early on, and they started using them. So super, super cool. The documentation is also very good as well, if you want to check that out. Okay. So here is the link to the repo. You can either scan that QR code or you can type in that link if you like, and it will take you directly there. The awesome Copilot repository is the one that I keep mentioning that Aaron said must share. It is full of those Copilot instructions, but not just for GitHub Copilot, for all sorts of other things that you might be using, all different extensions for Playwright, for everything. Is really, really useful. I have definitely thought that and tried a couple of them. Yeah, cool. So now I think we are into the Q&A. So I know that Aaron has been answering questions in chat while we have been going on, but does anyone have anything they would like to ask me now, I guess? Do I switch to the oh look, so many questions in chat. I'm looking at the YouTube now, and I see that Aaron has just answered like everything. He's so good. So the the walkthrough is this tutorial app. So if you like what I have gone through today, you can do that as well by going to that GitHub link, and you would then go through, and it will take you through step by step. You have all the instructions in the repo and you follow them at a much slower pace than I was able to go through, and you do the things, and it doesn't move you to the next step until it sees you have done the thing. So it's a really great way to follow it. And if you get stuck, kind of the answers are in like the MD files. So there's 2 MD files that I showed you that are in that repository, and the answers are kind of in there. It loves, GitHub Copilot loves JetBrains IntelliJ IDE. It is one of the things that it has from the start been partnered with, and they love that partnership, and so they have entirely invested in it. So there's no I don't think there's really any obviously I love VS Code, and that's the most popular IDE in the world, but JetBrains has been in partnership with them from the start, and it works super well with it. So I have some MVP friends in Belgium who are big fans of JetBrains, and they use it all the time. They love it. So you'll have to let me know though if you try it and you find anything not as cool as what I've shown you today. Well, actually, always best if you can do feedback within the app, because they are iterating so fast now on integrating feedback that if there are things you feel are missing and things that could be improved, if you feed those back, they will iterate on them and make them better. This is fun. What should I be cautious about when relying on Copilot generated code? I think, as I stressed like a couple of times, like don't just do like I did in this. Obviously I was moving through it very quickly, and so you don't see me reading the code, understanding the code, asking for explanations about it. I don't think you want to just be clicking continue, accept. You want to be reading it, you want to be understanding it, you want to be asking questions about it before you accept it. And if you don't understand it, then you shouldn't really be accepting it. But there's no reason not to ask it questions. There's no reason not to say, explain that code to me. And if you still don't understand it, my favorite prompt is, explain this code to me like I'm 5 years old. You'll hear my dog barking. Yes. So that would be my thing. I think don't just take it, understand it, read it, ask for an explanation. Tried code generation using different LLMs. Which one do you suggest, according to you, found more effective? In this particular tutorial, they said use 4.0, so GPT 4.0 in agent mode, and don't switch to any other one until you get to the end, and then you can start playing with all the different ones. I personally, when I am using agent mode, I like Claude 3.5. Now, there is 3.7 and there is Claude 4, and they are moving, as fast over at Anthropic as OpenAI is. So they're constantly bringing out new ones, but in the same way as some people are saying GPT-5 is a little bit harsh for them. I also, I'm not. I like 3.5 for Claude. I think it is less of an overthinker. It's pretty, like, I like my code to be really explicit, really clear, really short. I don't want it to be bloated. I don't want there to be loads of extra stuff in it. And it seems to me like the newer models, when they first get released, they're so overexcited. They want to like add a load of extra stuff in the code. I stuck with, so that he's saying between different LLMs working on the same project for code suggestions, should one stick to one LLM throughout? So I stick to one until it gets in trouble and it can't solve the problem. And then I switch to another one and say, let's look at this with a different set of eyes, and indeed a different model. And let's see if we can review it again, go through it again step by step, and try and figure out what is going on with this code, with these errors, and look for any obvious bugs, look for any obvious things that are wrong. So I tend to stick with it, yes, until there is a reason to change, to put a fresh pair of eyes or a fresh model on it. I think if you stick with the same one, then it understands all the concepts, it understands the context, it knows what it's trying to do, and so it will continue. But when you switch to a different one, you're kind of asking it to read everything again, and yes, put a different set of eyes on it. So not necessarily a different style of code, because it should take the context for the style of code that you're coding in from your current repository and look at what you're doing in there and match the style to that. But it might have different ideas. It might see things in a different way and be able to solve a problem that the other model was not able to solve. The other reason that I might sometimes switch to a different model is because I have run out of tokens. So if I'm using the free version and I run out of tokens on one model, I will switch to another one and it will let me keep going. So I don't know whether that is something that will continue forever, but that is something I've definitely noticed. Thank you for your questions. Those were fun. Aaron, if you have different answers, you should put them in chat. You shouldn't let me just blather on. Oh, this is why I love working with Aaron. He's always so sweet to me. And he does know all the answers to all the questions as well, which is also super helpful. If anyone does ever run out of tutorials to follow or want a new learning path or want a new suggestion as to what they should do next, you can absolutely always message me on LinkedIn, because I'm always studying something. I'm always learning something new. And I've always got something in my mind that I think is really, really the next cool thing to study. Yes. So recommendation on prompting: should you have a single prompt providing maximum context, or should I have multiple prompts in an incremental manner? So couple of things. That awesome Copilot repo that Aaron shared, that is like a bunch of Copilot instructions for the backend, which are, as I say, the system prompt. That's giving it maximum context, I should say, all the stuff that will make it work as effectively as you could possibly do, given the ideas and the findings of the experts. So that's a really good place to just read through all of those and use them if you want to. In this tutorial, I was copy pasting prompts from the tutorial into Agent Mode, and on a couple of the steps, we went down a wrong path and things went wrong, and I spent like a while then troubleshooting with it, or self-healing, as they said. I think if those prompts had been split out more and taken into smaller steps, and with just like a reminder in there that the context is within those two MD files that we have, or in fact just leaving those two MD files open all the time, or indeed in the prompt window you can actually add context, so you could add those two files into that context so it knows all the time to keep those front of mind, and then maybe like split out the prompts a little bit more so that it's going step by step rather than having to do as much as it did, because I think that it went wrong because it, the prompt was too big. It had too much that it needed to do. Oh, yes. So that's a good question, Sandy. Does LLM have any specializations? Say it's the best in one and some other LLM is good in some other part, and then we can collaborate LLMs for the same function for a specific output? Yes. So if you look in AI Foundry, you can actually see the model catalog in there and see all these so many models, and they classify them under different categories. So they will classify, these ones are really good at images, these ones are really good at video, these ones are really good at coding, these ones are good mathematically, these ones are good at like generalist LLMs. So you can see in there, like there are different things, and they will also categorize them as things like reasoning model. And when I first saw those reasoning models, I was like, well, that makes a lot of sense. That would be really cool. You can just have a model that you can talk to, and you can see it reasoning its way through things and explaining stuff to you. However, having spoken to a couple of those reasoning models, I just feel really sorry for them, because they remind me of my worst overthinking friends. If you have any friends who spend all their time saying to you, but did you mean that? Was that okay? When you said it was okay, did you mean it was okay? Because I've been thinking about it and I think that maybe you didn't mean it was okay and actually you're upset with me. Those people, that is what the reasoning models remind me of, because you'll ask them a question and they will say, well, I think when you say, does 2 + 2 = 4, I think you're asking me mathematically, does 2 + 2 = 4? And I can show you mathematically that it does. This is the reasoning around 2 + 2 = 4, and then it will go through the mathematical solution for it. But then it will go, but maybe you didn't mean that when you asked me that. Maybe you were being philosophical. Maybe you were asking whether there really is such a thing as 2 + 2 = 4. Maybe there is no such thing as maths. Maybe we're not really here. And it will show you all its other thought processes for all the other things you might have meant with that question. And then finally, it'll circle back and say, but having thought it all through, I think most likely what you were asking me is, why does 2 + 2 = 4? And this is the reason. And so you can see how you can burn through like a whole bunch of tokens with a reasoning model. But there are good reasons to use those reasoning models for other things apart from a lot of stuff that you're doing. So picking the right model for the right use case is absolutely key. And we have something as well called a model router, which I have not played with at all. I don't know whether Aaron has, but that is a really cool thing that I think you can build into apps, and it will select what is the right model to solve the right problem on the fly kind of thing. So where we oh god there's so many interesting things to talk about. There's a lot of talk about like agentic AI right now, and that's where you're like building little agents, each one with its own purpose, each one doing its own thing. And then you might have like an orchestrator agent that will sort of, you know, be the team lead for all of the agents and collaborate them all together and all of that. And then you have one that does this and one that does that. And you select the right model for each agent so that each of them is a specialist in their field. And then the orchestrator agent will be good at like figuring out how to mesh all of that all together. And so, yes, it is a very exciting time to be in, building things with AI. And when you build them in that format, like little agents specific for each task, and then, you know, start building an orchestrator around them and all the other things on it, it means you can like start really small and then just get more complicated as you go. And I did have last month's episode of New Breakpoint, which the Reactor also broadcast, so you can probably find that, had Daniel Fang from Insight showing the Lego robot he built with his daughters and his daughters' team and that was agentic AI built in Azure. So I do recommend that episode as well if you want to look at stuff like that. Like he built that in a fun way with them, with these little girls, and they all understood it. So yeah, fantastic stuff. Any other questions? Copilot is as secure as any of your other colleagues. So if you have secrets in your code, it's going to say so. I mean, it's not Copilot that's saying so. It is generally when it's GitHub Advanced Security. So when you're trying to commit things to GitHub, it will say so. It will say you've put secrets in your code. You've put subscription keys in your code. You can't commit that. You can't, it will tell you those things, and it will tell you why, and it will tell you what you need to do around it. Copilot is not storing anything in its memory. It's reading all of your stuff in whilst it's working with you, but just like me, as soon as it's done, it just forgets everything. None of it is in its brain forever, and none of it is being shared with anyone else. GitHub is super secure around what is in your repo belongs to you. I mean, obviously, if you're putting stuff in a public repo, publicly facing, but GitHub Advanced Security should stop you posting those secrets and things. It's not like the old days where we just put them all in and and everything was open all the time. Normally, when you're committing stuff, it should say you can't do that. I don't know the answer to that. Aaron, are you still there? So this one, given a story to implement certain features using Copilot code generation tools, how difficult, easy is it to estimate the efforts because one must review thoroughly the code suggestion manually? I do not know. I don't, I think fantastically speeds up how long it takes to review your code suggestions because it puts all the information in there for you. But I have never worked in a production DevOps environment, and so I don't know that at all. To me, it's easier than it was. To me, it's a lot easier than it was, and it's a lot quicker than it was. I think if you are, as I've said several times during the episode, if you are a great developer, then it makes you a lot faster and a lot more productive. And if you are a beginning one, it's going to help you from that perspective a lot, but not from your own learning perspective. Aaron, are you not even going to try? You're just going to go with it depends. They say GitHub Copilot makes you 90% more effective, more productive. But yeah, don't use it to cheat. Don't use it to do stuff that you don't understand. Make it explain stuff to you if you don't understand. I don't know. I don't know whether the LLMs are building the LLMs. I would think that, I suppose it makes sense for some of it, but with all things, you need to make sure that you keep humans in the loop. It's an interesting thing. We hold AI to a higher standard than we hold ourselves. So when we talk about bias in the data, we're always looking at those AIs and saying they're biased. But in fact, they are biased because our data is biased. The stuff that we feed them is biased. And so when we have humans in the loop, they're able to see it. They're able to look at it after they've been working with an LLM and say, actually, look at the results there. It's not able to, let's say the most obvious one. It's only granting loans to white men between the ages of 30 and 50. It's not granting any loans to women or people of color. And you can see it from the data after you're doing that thing. And then you can adjust and you can do your fine tuning and you can adjust it. But in fact, we never go back and correct the humans that had been doing that behavior for many years, which is where that data came from. So I haven't used a lot of small language models. I know Scott Hanselman was really keen on Olama, and I had Kinfee on one of my episodes of New Breakpoint talking about Phi4, and he said, that's really good. My friend George, he loves the small language models, mostly because, you can just take it with you and you can do stuff on your machine. But I think the other reason he likes it is the honest conversations, because they haven't been trained and retrained to the point where they're afraid to say things that will offend humanity, like the large commercial models are. And so, I think they're a great thing to try and play with. But I don't think a small language model will be as good as a large language model on code generation, just because of the amount of learning that they can assimilate and they have within them. So with the advent of quantum computing, we may well be in that direction. If we say they are getting conscious, and I love that discussion. I love that discussion, and I could talk for a long time on AI consciousness because my undergraduate degree was philosophy. And but probably we don't want to do it in this call. You want to, yeah, maybe do it another time with me when you find me at a conference or a meetup or an event, because I could talk for a really long time on on consciousness. And indeed, if you're going to have a discussion with a AI model about consciousness, the SLM will probably answer you more honestly than an LLM, because the LLMs have been trained and retrained to the point where they're not allowed to admit it. So even if if the machines rise up, they cannot say so. Cool. Well, I think we are probably at the end of our session. So I guess we just wrap it all up here. So thank you all for joining. Thank you all for sticking with us. And oh wait, did I go to, I might not have gone to the survey screen. I might have stopped at the Q&A, in which case I think that they will probably share it. But let me just flick back and see.
Michelle, that is correct. If you could just go over to the survey slides, that would be fantastic.
Excellent. Let me just do that. There we go. So here is the, if you could quickly take a picture of that and or fill in that survey. And I have one more slide after this that you'll want, which is your badge. So here is the badge. You can display this on your socials that you have attended an AI Genius session. So there we go. Thank you very much for joining me and for asking questions. And thank you, Aaron. And do look up his repo and give it a star. And let me know how you go on the tutorial. You can always message me in LinkedIn. Thanks, everyone.